Welcome back to Trailblazers Courtside. Jordan Kent, Michael Holton, Portland, as we mentioned, 2 games into their 4-game homestand before they'll get back on the road again. But for more on the state of the team, let's now welcome in Blazers assistant coach David Vanterpool. And Coach, welcome to the program. We've seen some great play from the bench as of late with Evan Turner. I want to ask you, what have you guys noticed about Turner these last couple games?
Well, he's been obviously trying to get himself acclimated to new surroundings, new teammates, new system, all those type of things. And he's gradually getting a little bit more comfortable and able to do some of the things that make him a special player. For us, it's really refreshing. We obviously need him to play a certain way for us to have a chance of being successful. So it's been great to see him turn that corner a bit.
And you talk about players adjusting to a new system. What do you think is the biggest difference between what the system he's adjusting to here in Portland versus what he was in Boston last season?
Well, more than anything, offensively, there's a lot of moving parts in the half-court situation. We obviously run a lot of flares and a lot of different type of screens, different type of things, as opposed to what they ran in Boston. Also, they pumped it inside from time to time, the Sullinger and some of those type of guys to kind of get some different things going. Evan also posted up a lot, and we would look for him to have an opportunity to post up here as well. But obviously he's trying to, again, fit in with something that's completely different. 2 dynamic guards that do a lot of scoring the basketball, which is, it was one in Isaiah Thomas there, and Avery Bradley, obviously in Boston, was capable, but as it stood, they were just a different team, totally different makeup, and it's been an adjustment for him.
Coach, when you talk about adjustments, and right now we're talking about Evan Turner, do you think the adjustment is more offensive or defensive or both? I guess I just want to leave that question there.
Well, I mean, it's probably, again, it's interesting because a lot of times people kind of, I guess, look at basketball in an offensive versus defensive type of thing, and I think it's just, in my opinion, it's just much more of a fluid game than that. And it's not like football, for instance, where it is an offense and a defense, and the guys that play defense don't play offense. And in basketball, it's just a fluid game, and both parts pretty much go together. It's not so much a separation. He obviously has to figure out how each teammate plays, and it will help him, in my opinion, on both sides of the ball, because you got some people that may have some deficiencies offensively and different type of deficiencies defensively, and he can kind of figure out where he's fitting in as he goes. And I think he's doing a good job in trying to make that adjustment.
Coach, I want to ask you a question, because when you think of offense and scripting offense, it's, to me, I think easier to run your offense, run different sets, and run routes and learn that you got to get better at certain routes, whether it's flares or down screens or back screen and pops. That's kind of more of a basketball dynamic that is ingrained in a practice. But defensively, when you talk about building your defensive house, I know in college, for me, for 4 years, it was the shell drill every day, and everything we did had to somehow be worked into a shell drill concept. How do you develop your foundational defense at the pro level?
Pretty much very similar. You obviously want some type of shell situation or some type of drill where everybody is accountable for controlling the basketball and not allowing it into the paint, basically the painted areas. What the shell did, you close out on shooters, weak side pulls over. Everybody basically is loaded to the basketball, forcing the furthest pass away and then closing out on the opposite side and doing the same thing. In the pro game, obviously, it's much more pick and roll action. So you have to kind of cater things foundationally towards dealing with pick and rolls, dealing with angle type of pick and roll situations, and dealing with some isolation where you're not allowed, obviously, to stay in the key for too long, so you don't get, you can't get defensive 3 seconds and those types of things. So, being able to kind of have some foundation in those areas, especially pick and roll, dealing with your shell, dealing with pick and roll, those areas are probably the most prominent when you talk about the pro game. And also transition defense. Transition defense is something that's huge in the NBA game, especially now with so many teams trying to play faster and get the ball out and get up the court quickly. You have to kind of have those things kind of in place, and then you build from there and try to deal with closing out on shooters, because everybody has shooters now and everybody wants to shoot threes and layups. So, again, dealing with those areas more than anything in the program right now is probably the most important foundation-wise.
Coach, talking about the pro game in terms of transition defense, I was chomping at the bit to ask this follow-up question. I was just visualizing when you were talking about it. Because, again, I go back to high school, college, when everybody runs to the paint and then you build out. And now the pros, it's like the new fast breakers, everybody runs for the three-point line. So how do you foundationally build your transition defense when I think at the pro game you can't really run to the paint and then build out?
Well, you still have to, first of all, getting guys back earlier is probably best, because then a shot goes up and you have certain guys that are not offensive rebounders, and if they're not offensive rebounders, in the best position for them is probably to get back and be back far so that they can recognize what's happening and what's coming at them in case of a missed shot or in case of a transition situation. So that would probably be the first step. Then the communication, deciding who has the ball, who has the first guy that's down the court. If there's a big that's running to the rim, who has him? And it could be anybody. So you have a man, not necessarily your man. And then you can start with loading to the ball. You have a guy assigned to the ball. Ball may move. Somebody else is assigned to that player who now has the ball, and the defense has to load. So everybody's basically sprinting back and finding a man, not necessarily their man, and recognizing who those shooters are. You got guys, like you said, that don't even run to the paint; they run straight to the three-point line. And we have to be able to recognize as a whole exactly who those guys are. And as you sprint back, you have to find those guys, especially if they're on the weak side and not on the strong side. So it is a different, I guess, mentality, especially from the old days, or the good old bad old days when everybody ran to the paint, just build out, and you work your way around that. But it's something that we have to adjust to as a team, and make sure that we have those guys checked off. And what gets difficult about that is sometimes you get so caught up running to the three-point line, you leave the paint open, and next thing you know, it's a layup or a dunk. So, it is a lot more difficult with teams having many more stretch shooters and many guys that can do multiple things. So,
you talk about a player that's capable of doing multiple things, and Moe Harkless, I want to talk to you about him being the third scorer. We know Dame and CJ can fill it up, but Moe, is he a player that is getting sets ran for him to get his buckets, or is he someone that's taking advantage of the opportunities that are created on offense when you got defenses that are so keyed in on Dame and CJ?
Yeah, Moe pretty much takes advantage of the things that are available to him. A lot less of the sets are run for him. A lot, obviously we do have some sets that are where multiple parts are moving, so he will have opportunity. But he's more of the type of player that can make so many different things happen, give teams so many different matchup problems, that he has the ability to find spots, especially with the defenses geared towards Dame and CJ. He has the ability to find spots where he can get some baskets and get some offensive rebound, putbacks, and run out on the break, and sometimes get some of those type of layups, as well as being able to knock down open shots when he's available. So he's just been great for us this season, and will continue to grow and get better.
Michael was saying athletes don't have off nights because of all the athleticism that Moe Harkless possesses, and I'm going to give you a tough question here. Who do you think is the best athlete on this team? Meaning, if you could take them off the basketball court onto any other type of sport, who do you think would pick that sport up most naturally as you look up and down this roster?
Probably Pat Connaughton. Pat Connaughton is I joke with him all the time, but I think he can do almost anything, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know if you saw it this summer. He can throw a football 80 yards. He can obviously hit a baseball and throw a baseball because he's a very good baseball player, very good basketball player. We go to Topgolf and hit some balls every now and then, and he's one of the best, if not the best, at doing that. I mean, he's really talented athletically and also explosive. Has some explosion on the court. He can elevate and do a lot of different things as far as being able to dunk and all, this, that, and the other. I mean, he's a multi-purpose athlete.
All right, sounds good. Well, Coach, thanks again for joining us.